Okay guys, I'm going to go over the process of how to make buildings and ruins and broken down vehicles from an idea and a picture to the cardboard stock and then painting it. So first thing you have to have is an idea. You have to see a building or a vehicle that you think is cool, that would be good terrain. So in a previous video I showed this piece of terrain, and this is not really a 2-scale replica, but it's modeled after the Notre Dame Cathedral. Okay, so I got a picture of the Notre Dame Cathedral offline, and then I kind of figured out how tall it was, and then I kind of scaled it down a little bit so it wasn't ridiculously huge on the battle top. And that's where that came from. So my next project is going to be these Space Marine buildings I found online, and I guess these are kind of inspired by the Dawn of War franchise. And they're two buildings. One's like a barracks. I think this is the barracks, and then this is the armory. So once you get the picture you want, print it out, put it in, copy and paste it into Microsoft Word, print it out, and then you try to figure out the dimensions of it. And as you can see here, I got a lot of notes. I actually drew like a little Space Marine here, because I know this door a Space Marine's gonna have to fit through. A Space Marine's about 8 feet tall, so that door has to be about 8 feet, and then there's about 2 inches or 2 feet left here, so I know that this panel has to be about 10 feet. Then I can use that panel to figure out the dimensions of all the other sides. Then from here I can get my cardstock, and this is thicker cardstock I ordered off of Amazon. I must have got 50 sheets for about $5, and I draw a grid on it, and I just do a 1 inch by 1 inch. Some people do a 1 inch by 2 inch. That's okay, but you want a nice easy thing to work with. And then the next step is to figure out what I can do with this. So I am going to split this into sections. I'm going to build this first section, and I see that I want to do this underneath piece, and I'm not going to base this. I can pick it up and put guys inside of it too. So I'm going to work just on this part, and really this looks like doors or something here, so I might do this side, then that side, and that side, and I'll come back and show you when I'm done, and then we'll put on the bandings and the doors and stuff. Okay, but this is so far what you should have: an idea, the dimensions, and a grid. Okay, I cut out all the pieces to make this first section right here. I didn't cut out this piece yet. I'll probably do this after I get the main structure. I'm just doing this under piece, and then I'm going to do these bands, these doors, and that Aquila. But you will need 5 pieces like this, so it's 2 by 4, and that'll be these pieces here all the way around. And then you'll need 2 pieces like this. This is 3 pieces up, but the third piece you cut at a diagonal just straight across. Okay, so I'll come back when I get these all glued together, and I'm just going to use a hot glue gun to quickly glue them up. Okay, I ran into a problem, as often happens with these buildings. I glued on the 2 sides without problems, but then I didn't take into account the shortened length that the roof tiles would have to be, because I cut it at an angle. But that's okay, no need to panic. You grab your trusty Sharpie, you make a mark here where the arch is, and then you turn it around. You make another mark where the arch is. And then I'll draw a line across to these two marks, cut it, and glue it on. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this is not a precise mathematical equation. In a perfect world it would be, but I'm not an engineer. This is miniature houses we're building. So sometimes you have to think on the fly and fix things on the fly. And this is one example. So if this comes up, don't panic. Just try to think of a good solution. Okay, if you've been following along correctly, should have something that resembles this. Now here's a pro tip if you didn't measure as nice as I did. You can seal up the cracks with the hot glue, and you just run a thick line and then you smear it around with a popsicle stick. I use this popsicle stick all the time. Less hot glue is more. So you run a line, rub it in with a popsicle stick, way better than your finger, prevents a lot more, prevents a lot less burns. And as I go too, I always like to ensure the scale of things. So before we start adding detail, ensure that it looks right. So this will be this part right here, which is going right. Now the next part, I'm going to do these bands. These are one length. I'm going to try to do them all. And to do them all, you figure out the length. So this is 10 feet. This is not 10 feet that we found out is about 7 of the feet, which is really inches. Every 5 feet is 1 inch when you're talking about scale. And then inch. So we're gonna do these bands next, then we'll probably do these doors, then these doors, then the Aquila. So I'll come back with the bands when I have those cut out. So if you did everything right, you should have enough cardboard to do these bands. You get these 2 long strips, you get these 4 little strips, and then you have these scrap bits, which I'm gonna save. Sometimes they come in handy for little doors or little details. But you should have these 4 2 pieces are gonna be these pieces on both sides. So 1 2 1 2. Then if you left your squares on the outside, you see they should go right here and they should go right here, and you want to have them overlapping a little bit on the side of these big double doors, because these double doors intersect or go inside. They sit inside about a 1/4 inch. So I need to overhang one side of these about a 1/4 inch so I can get those doors in there. So I'll come back and show you once I get those up. Okay, so I attached the 4 bands. Should have something like this. Again, make sure you overlap about a 1/4 inch that way, because these doors are going to sit in there and you want them sitting a little bit. I wanted to talk to you about the next technique, which is to bend these. So instead of cutting all the way through, I pre-measured this. I just put this strip up here and I marked it. Instead of cutting all the way through, I'm just going to cut about halfway through, and then I can bend this really nicely on there and it creates a really cool effect. So it looks like it's 1 piece of metal instead of 2 pieces. And it usually turns out pretty cool. So I'll come back after I do both sides and I'll show you guys. So this is what I was talking about. You just run these creases, and then instead of cutting it, it sits nicely here. And then it looks like 1 solid piece. And again, at this point, you don't really have to measure these. You just kind of lay it on there and then mark it out. And then cut it. And we're going to cut off this piece. Save those scraps, because you never know when they'll come in handy. But I'm going to glue this one on, and then glue the back one on, and then I'll come back. Okay, at this stage, you should have this part starting to come along. It's this part right here. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I have to cut out this door, which is the same shape that we made before, but just a 1/4 inch longer to cover up this end. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to cut out this Aquila. I just googled this shape online. You need to make sure it is about roughly 3 inches across, so it can fit in the door once we get that door situated. And I'm going to cut out the same shape, and then I'm going to show you how to cut out this door line here. And I don't know if I'm going to have this gap there. That might be I might have some gap, but it's not going to be quite as significant as that one. So I'll come back when that's all cut out. Oh, you're going to have to make another grid on another sheet of paper too. Of course, at this point you'll be out of this cardstock paper, so you're going to have to make another 1 inch by 1 inch grid, and I'm sure we'll have to make several more before this is done. Okay, I got my door cut out. This is probably the hardest part because there's no good measurement on this. A good way to do this is once you get your grid drawn, put it on the paper like so, line up the edge, and then trace around the outside of the whole thing. And then just cut it down little by little until it fits inside of this nicely like that. Okay, and you want this still this little overhang. If you look at the picture, there's still that overhang. And then we have to cut this groove in the door. So I'm going to go probably over 2, and then I'll go maybe down a half. I don't know, I'll figure it out and I'll come back. Okay, these are about the best dimensions I'll get on this door. You go an inch up from this second, or a ½ inch up from the second block. So this is 1.5 inches, and then you go 1 inch over, and then you diagonal down, and then it goes to the middle block, and then same thing on the other side. So I'm going to cut that out, glue it in, and then I'm going to cut out the Aquila, which I just glued it to here, and then I'm going to use a fine razor knife and cut it out. So I'll come back and I'll show you guys how it goes. I don't know if I'm going to cut out all the details, but I'll get the ones I think I can do well. Aquila all glued on. I use white glue just because of the detail. It would be really hard to do with the glue gun. I got everything else done. Now I'm going to make this, and as I said, I figured it was about 18 feet. I'll probably do 5 feet, so 5 square inches wide, just to make it easier, and then I'll stick it in the middle there. It looks like it's about 10 feet up. So I'm going to cut that piece out, this piece right here, cut out these squares, then come back to you. Okay. Okay, I made the little entranceway part, this part right here, and it was I made it 4 blocks long just for ease. It looks like it should work. And for the template, these are like ½ inch, and then I put them right in the middle of the middle too. I use this as a template. This is one of the pieces left on the long strips. I just put it right in the middle, cut them out, and then I glued Grammy mesh on the bottom just to give it some texture when they come in. You know, it's like a metal mat. So I'm going to attach this, and then half this building is done. And really, that's probably the hardest part. This Aquila was pretty hard, and the second part of the building shouldn't be that much harder, but it is going to take probably at least 2 more grids. Okay, I have the next steps done, which is this piece right here, these side walls. This one had to be a little bigger. It's going to sit like this. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 across. And then you go 2 up, 2 over, then 4 across. So it's a little bit different than my diagram. That happens. These are these sides inside. I'm going to put on this door panel afterwards. And these are 2 up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 over. So this actually represents 10 feet tall, 30-foot wall. Okay, so I'll come back once I have those on and I'm working on the roof. Okay, got that sides and the back done up. Now one note, I did cut this down. I did stick to the original plan and only go 20 feet. I had it at 30, but it just looked weird. So I did end up cutting that down. Hopefully you didn't already make your sides, just so it would fit more at the plan. Just 30 feet looked too long, and then the roof would look weird when I do the roof. So now we have the roof. I have this piece. This is my 3rd grid board left. I don't know if it'll quite be enough. I'll come back and show you how the roof goes and let you know if you need a 4th board. Okay, got the roof on. It's looking pretty good. I like to leave the checkered size out. It helps with measurements. And it's looking pretty similar to the diagram. You can already see I'm not going to have enough to finish. This is what you guys have. I think I could do one side, but I'd still have to do the other side, the doors, and these bands. So I'm just going to go ahead and do another grid. So that'll be 3 pieces of that poster board, or this thick cardstock or whatever it is that you will need to finish this build. Okay, I've finished one side of these sally port, 4 across, 1/2 inch thick. It will be fixed right here, and again it's this little part right here. Before you get everything down though, make sure you cut out the door. It's this shape, just 5 inches across, and then save about 1/4 inch at the top. And then with the shape that fits in there, you got to just slice it in half to make this door look in shape. So I cut this out, and then I just put another scrap. I glued another scrap in there, so then I can get this door fitted in here right to glue in there. So then when you paint it, it'll look like this. Then I'll probably put another little piece next to the door for the panel. And I'll probably get a few little Legos to glue there, but that'll be when I'm all done. So you have to do this for the other side also. So that's where there's actually not enough scraps left to do the other side. So you'll have to do another grid for the other side to make this other side sally port. Okay, I got the top cut out here. I'm going to do the top before I do those side bands because they kind of curve down. So you need a 4x4 square, and then you need to cut 2 L's here. So I went 2 over and then 1/2, 2 over and 1/2, and then I'm going to cut these out and glue them in there. And then these go on like this, but a little bit should overhang. If you look at the diagram here, it shows a little overhanging. So when I do this, I'm going to cut it off and then just overhang it a little bit to get that cool joint look. Okay, building is done. It's ready for the black base coat. Let me show you how I finished up these this panel. I was trying to put on some Lego buttons, they didn't work. So I cut out a screen out of some cereal box card, and I made a little keypad the same way. I just put a little cross pattern. But this is how the roof turned out. And tomorrow I'll spray paint it black, and then I'll paint it, and I'll show you guys it all done tomorrow. Here's a little orc, about the right size, and I left it hollow so you could potentially hide some guys in there if you wanted to. But more than anything, it's just kind of a building for guys to hide around and block line of sight as they're advancing. Okay, one more thing I added before I do my favorite undercoating is I added this big Aquila on the back. I felt like the back was empty, it needed something, so I spent time, I cut out this Aquila. I used lighter cardboard, so it's easier to cut out. I just used, this is like cereal box, this is an applesauce box. This is easier to work with, easier to cut out. So I cut out this big Aquila, hopefully it'll add some detail to the back side. Now I'm gonna get to spraying it, and then I'm gonna get to painting it. I'm just gonna undercoat it black, and then I'm gonna dry brush it with some ultramarine blue. So I'll come back and show you when I'm done with that. Alright guys, here's the finished product of the Space Marine building I've been working on the last few days. It's all painted up now. I put these danger strips here for a nice contrast. I painted it a blue. I call it my generic ultramarine blue. I did the detail on the side door. Here's the little control panel. And then this was it's like a big trap door, but it's kind of hard to see now. I kind of wish I would have painted that silver, but in hindsight, if you guys want to paint it silver, you can. Here's the left side, and here is the big Aquila on the back, which I'm really happy I did. It really turned out well. So again, this was a Dawn of War inspired Space Marine building. Should provide some nice terrain for guys. Again, you can put them inside it too if you really wanted to hide them. And that's it. If this video does well, I'll have more to come. Probably costed $3 in materials. Now granted, you have to already have the paint and stuff on hand, but the cardstock and the granny netting, it's really no money at all. It's 3 pieces of cardstock, a little piece of granny netting, and that's it. Some printed out Aquilas and some time. It probably took roughly 6 hours for me to make this. So again, if you want to see more, like, subscribe. I have plans to make 3 more similar buildings to fit in the set, plus I will make the Dawn of War stronghold, which I don't have plans for. I'm just going to do it off of screenshots if these videos do well. Alright, send me a comment or question if you have any questions while you're making this. See you next video.